Hi guys, welcome once again to the Coffee and Hero Show on our YouTube channel. Hope you guys are keeping well out there. Recording this on the 5th of September, so at the end of another week for us at the store. Interesting week this week. Obviously it wasn't quite as busy as last week given the release of 3 Jokers, but also this week we had to deal with the delay in the delivery due primarily to the bank holiday on Monday. So what that means is we will always get our delivery on a Tuesday, gives us all day to sort it out, and then it goes on sale on a Wednesday. But this week it was a case of it arrives on a Wednesday for a immediate on sale. But the thing is, we can't really put it out straight away because we like to bag and board everything. We like to make sure everything's protected. We need to organize pull lists first. So it takes a little longer to do. So delivery arrived on Wednesday, probably around 12:30. So we had everything ready by about 4. But a lot of our regular guys, they come in their lunch breaks on a Wednesday. So it's totally understandable that Wednesday's a little quieter than usual. But then the rest of the week was nice and busy anyway. So yeah, good week in the store. But it's always a bit of a weird one when you've got that late delivery because you don't get that proper new comic book day feel on a Wednesday, which is always a bit of a shame. But what can you do? Cheers, by the way. I told that I'm getting more and more people into drinking coffee during this due to my subliminal advertising or not too subtle advertising. So yeah, so that was the first thing in the store this week. Second thing was, I don't know if you guys would have watched the video I posted before this one, but it was primarily dealing with our first CGC delivery, which was brilliant to get. It was something that had long been in the works. As you know, I've mentioned it many times on the YouTube show and trying to keep people informed, and we're really looking forward to get it going. But we just had to wait for it to come back. I've been working out the pricing this weekend. We're going to announce that next week, and then we'll be able to take books off of people. I mean, the way it'll work is when people drop their books in with us, what we'll do is we'll photograph the condition that they're in when they're dropped to us, just so that we always have a record of it, the date that you dropped it into us as well. And then what we'll always do is it'll always be a minimum of 25 we send off. The reason for that is it's the same amount in terms of postage costs there and back for 11 books as it is for 25 books. So in a bid to keep the pricing as down as low as we can, we'll always want to maximize that. So say for example, you guys drop in a book on a Saturday and you're the first one to do it for the next batch going off. It might be filled by a week later, it might be filled by 3 weeks later, but we'll keep you actively informed, of course, and let you know when we send the books off. The turnaround time seemed to be around 30 to 40 days, and given the current climate as well, that can play a part with sort of postal services and so forth as well. But certainly for this delivery, it was anywhere between 30 and 40. I showed off a lot of those slabs. Those were ones that were for the store. They'll be going on sale from next week. If you saw the video, you saw that there were some absolute beauties in there as well. There were a couple of ones for the personal collection came back this week as well, so I'll just show you guys these quickly. So these are not for sale, okay? So first one up, I finally got my hands on Teen Titans 12. So first appearance of the Batman Who Laughs. But Teen Titans 12 was always a tricky one because we weren't long open and metal was the first big event we were dealing with. And therefore you always wanted to make sure that new customers were getting the titles they were coming in for. So way back then I gave away but I sold my copy of it to a new customer and therefore didn't have one myself. Then it exploded in price. I managed to get a raw copy about 3 or 4 months ago and then I've sent that off. So 9.4 grade, I'm more than happy with that. Anything above a 9.0 is, if it's for the personal collection, I'm not as bothered. I'd always like to have as many good ones in store as possible at the highest possible grade for people. But obviously if they're slightly lower grade, they'll be priced accordingly and so forth. But with this one, I've just wanted this in my collection for ages. So I was more than chuffed to get 9.4 on that one. Just talking about 9.0, we did get one back in a 9.0, which I was slightly surprised about. It's definitely the lowest grade that we've received so far. This was for Middle West #1. So again, it's just a book that I'm a huge fan of. There's not really a lot of monetary value on it. It's not like a 9.8 was going to be worth a fortune or anything like that. But I was just glad, I just really wanted this. It's one of our favorite books of the last couple of years. It's something Vicky and I both love. It's something that's available now in all 3 trades, and the story finished at 18 issues. And there was something that had happened that just really reminds us of the store and the sort of family we've built up through the store. So 9.0, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. It's for the personal collection, and again, it's not one that there's a huge monetary value in. And then the last one, actually, I said none of these were for the store. This one will be going on sale from next week, and this is a Joker Year of the Villain one. So this was a one per store copy. It was a cover done by Brian Boland, and it was for the that John Carpenter written story, Joker Year of the Villain. Brilliant story, by the way, really, really good. But this one, going into store, I'm delighted to say 9.8. So that one will be in the store from next week anyway, on sale. So you guys can keep an eye out for that. In terms of the titles that stood out for me most this week, I've only got one of them here because Vicky has the other two and she's out at the moment with her comics, which is really annoying. But at the same time, I'm glad she's reading them. So the first two, one was called Lonely Receiver. I was a big fan of this, I have to say. This was one that really left an impression on me. It's an Aftershock title. And after I'd read it, it had that sort of atmosphere and that sort of just got under your skin a little bit. To tell you the story, it's in very sort of, in layman's terms, it's an exploration of the bond people now make between themselves and their mobile phone and how much it defines them and how much they rely on it. And then it goes from there. It's set in sort of a future where the phone itself can be, manipulated into being like a person. It's like an avatar that lives with you, that kind of thing. And then what happens if, they don't want you anymore, that kind of thing. So it was written by Zach Thompson and the artist is Jen Hickman on that. Very, very impressed with it, I have to say. Zach Thompson referred to it as a horrific breakup story, except it's a breakup story about a person and their phone. So it's a really well-timed one, given how much we live in the information age now and how much we, rely on our mobile phones every single day. But I was just really, really impressed with it, I have to say. The second one that I really, really dug was Hellblazer, Rise and Fall. Unsurprisingly, Tom Taylor makes a appearance during my titles of the week, shock horror. This was excellent though. It's going to be 3 issues. Each issue is sort of a 48-pager. It's in a Prestige Plus format. So the slightly larger size, almost like the magazine size. So it was Tom Taylor on writing duties and Derek Robertson on art, known well for The Boys. A little side note, The Boys Season 2 has started this weekend. Must dig into that. And this was wonderful, just full of humour, full of heart, as you would expect. Really intriguing murder mystery story going on there as well. There was some cool looks into John Constantine's past, which I really enjoyed. The only negative thing against it, although for some of you you'll see this as a positive, were the copious amounts of mentions of Liverpool Football Club and Anfield, given that Tom Taylor's a fan. Po Buddy's nerfed and all that. But in a move that will surprise absolutely nobody who knows me or watches this or comes to the store, my title of the week is, and of course I have a copy of this here because every single time it comes out I get 3 copies. Cover A, cover B, 1 to 25. And title of the week for me was Batman 98. This fulfilled all the promise that Tinian's been doing so far. There were goosebump-inducing moments. The art from Jorge Jimenez is on another level in this issue. There's especially one page that plays on the old classic I'm Batman idea. That is just, it's a print waiting to happen. If I could get my hands on that original artwork, I would do my best to get it because it is bloody gorgeous. But just a great issue in general. You can see that this is starting to wind down in Joker War now, and that Batman's ready to get back on his feet after the last couple of issues. The psychological torture he's had to endure, the physical torture, watching his city burn with the Joker taking his vast fortune and using it against him. But this issue was unbelievably good, and definitely, in my mind anyway, the best issue that Tinian has done so far. So thoroughly recommend that. Another thing I'm looking for, just because I know you guys are always interested in the bits and pieces of pick up beyond the single issues, but this week saw the release of a beautiful hardcover of The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys, which now has a new subtitle, which is California. We are surmising this is because the Fabulous Killjoys are making a comeback in National Anthem, which is a new one coming out in October. So Killjoys, for anybody that doesn't know, this is essentially the comic extension of the My Chemical Romance videos from Danger Days, when you had the Killjoys in the videos for Na 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 and for Sing, also co-starring Grant Morrison as well. But this was a story that was co-written by Sean Simon and Jared Way, and the art is by Becky Cloonan. So it's a gorgeous, gorgeous book. It's also a book that, you know, the way that Dark Horse are putting these together, these premium editions, you know, you recognize a lot of the stuff, the Better Life Industries and so forth from those videos. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful book. They put these things together really well, and they always add little touches that I really like. For example, in this one, and I know they did this in the Umbrella Academy ones as well, which were larger editions, but they put this cool little, I mean, it's just a little touch, but I think it really helps. A bookmark, essentially, so that you can just, you know, without having to fold any pages. Although if you fold any pages, what are you doing? You're a monster. But yeah, really looking forward to digging into this. It was a title I collected in single issues I've got upstairs, but I haven't read it in a number of years, so I might just have to get my emo on and listen to Danger Days and give this a read. So this came out just this week. Big seller as well at the store. We got, I think it was 8 copies of it in. We're down to our last 2. So big seller for us in the store this week as well. So grab that if you fancy a bit of classic Dark Horse storytelling. So yeah, so that was pretty much this week anyway. As ever, we always like to have a look at the invoice for next week. This is where you're going to get a classic Alan rant about Diamond. I know that's what you all come here for. So the week that just passed, another Tom Taylor title could have possibly been in my top issues of the week, and that would have been Deceased Dead Planet 3. So it was due out this week. But I understand the way the world is now and the way shipping schedules are changing all the time, and DC are also releasing titles on a Tuesday in America, so that might affect how they get shipped and so forth. So Deceased was due this week, wasn't on our invoice, so it was like, no problem, it's going to be delayed by 1 week, we'll get over it. I had a few people asking about it in the store because everyone loves it. It's our 3rd biggest DC pull after Batman and Metal. So I thought to myself, that's cool, that's fine, we'll get it next week. So invoice arrives, no Deceased. And what really grinds me about this, it's, you know, I understand the way the world is at the moment, and, you know, when they get here, but Diamond do not go out of their way to actually tell you these things. They don't give you a list of titles of, we're really sorry, these have been delayed. The problem is, when you pay for something as a business 2 months in advance, and you pay everything up front, and then it's not being delivered when it's scheduled to be delivered, it's frustrating. And then it's also frustrating as an extension of that as a fan, you know, wanting to read it, not having all these things spoiled on social media and all the rest. So I got in touch with Diamond to ask them, you know, could I have an update on this, or are you going to tell us, or, you know, whatever. And there wasn't just Deceased, there's a couple. There's Batman Adventures number 4, I think, The Adventures Continue number 4, which is a pretty big title at the store as well. And then a few other indie titles. And again, as a small business in Belfast, for some reason, I have to tell them this stuff, but none of the big companies mention it to them, that your Forbidden Planets or your Traveling Mans or Close Encounters or that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we're essentially a small boutique comic store at this point, you know, in the grand scheme of things. But it seems to be that, I don't know how closely other stores look at their invoices, but I always look at it meticulously because I want to ensure we have the best stock for our customers and we can keep them informed. So I got some, you know, response about trying to keep shipping costs down, and half the delivery is sent by air, half by boat. The problem with that explanation for me is that a year ago Diamond raised their prices, and it seems to be ever since they raised the prices for us, and we kept ours the same. We kept it for as long as possible. When we came back from the lockdown, certain issues went up 10p, but other prices remained the same. And it's really frustrating when they're saying, oh, we're just trying to keep costs down and this and that. They only raised their prices a year ago. So I don't really want to hear excuses from them. I just want to hear solutions. At the end of the day, it's not on us as retailers for how they operate and how they get titles into, you know, deliveries to be sent to us, but just keep us informed, let us know, allow us to be able to relay that information to customers. And that's where my problem comes in, because if I hadn't have asked them about Deceased, I would have never found anything out. So Deceased, guys, it's coming when it comes. I'll keep you informed as always on the show here, and I'll definitely put something through social media when it's actually going to come out. But we'll step aside from that negativity and we'll look forward to what's coming next week, because there are still a lot of good titles coming next week. So things to keep an eye out for. We've got Amazing Spider-Man number 48. That's continuing the Sins Rising stuff, which has been very, very good so far. Basket Full of Heads, the first of the Hill House titles for DC, the horror-based titles. It's the first one's coming out next week in hardcover. So we've ordered plenty of those in. I think that's going to be a big seller. We've got Bill and Ted Are Doomed, so tie-in recently with the movie that's due out soon, Bill and Ted Face the Music. We've got restocks of Bog Bodies coming in. That's essentially because when we did the Declan Shelby interview for our podcast and put it out, we've been inundated with requests for Bog Bodies and we've sold out at the store. But it's coming back in next week, so that's what you want to see. Canto and the Clockwork Fairies, so the second printing of that's coming next week for anybody who missed the first print. Again, this is something I believe was out in America last week, but again, just delays. What can you do? One that I think is going to be a big one is they're doing a tie-in comic for Cyberpunk 2077. It's called Cyberpunk 2077 Trauma Team, and the first issue of that comes out next week. It's going to be a 4-issue mini-series. We have Dark Knight's Death Metal Trinity Crisis, so the next Death Metal tie-in is coming in. I've really enjoyed the guidebook so far, and also Legends of Dark Knight, so looking forward to that. We're going to have the Aftermath of Empire, so one's called Aftermath and one's called Fallout. You've got Empire Aftermath Avengers and Empire Fallout Fantastic Four. So those are coming next week. Our free comic book title next week is going to be a Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess tie-in book, which, pardon me, I'm sure will prove popular. We've got new Flash. We've got new Green Lantern Season 2. We're up to number 7 of Grant Morrison's Madness. Looking forward to that. We've got John Constantine Hellblazer, so the first trade paperback is due out next week. Really looking forward to that coming out because we talk about it loads in the podcast. Unfortunately, a few guys missed out on it at the start, so I think they were waiting for trade. So I think that'll be a big seller as well. We've got Middle West number 3 coming in again. Again, I was chatting there about it being one of our favourite titles. Volume 3 is the last book, and we always have 1 and 2 on the shelves as well. We've got Nightwing 74 coming. That is Joker War tie-in. The second last one, I believe. Really good indie series that I love called Red Mother coming in. There's also a Marvel title coming in, Rise of Ultraman. That's going to be a brand new number 1. It's going to be a 5-issue mini-series, so looking forward to that. What else have we got? Something is Killing the Children, number 10. We've got Superman 25 coming as well. What else have we got? Web of Venom Wraith. I think this will be a popular one as well, so we've got that coming in. New Wonder Woman with 762. And then a couple of X titles to finish there with X Factor number 3 and X Force number 12. So there's still some really good stuff coming next week. As I say, I'm bummed that Deceased isn't coming. But again, we'll just keep an eye on it, guys, and do our best to keep you informed with that. So, and I'll try not to rant about Diamond again, but the thing is with Diamond, I just like to keep people informed. My worry is always that people will think we're not ordering things properly, or, you know, we're ordering things late and then we're getting them late. I am really, really meticulous about how I place my orders. I make sure everything is in on time. 9 times out of 10, it's in early. I pay for it up front, so there's no problems there where they're saying, oh, you have to settle this before we send it to you. So I just like to keep people informed about their practices, because I never want them to worry that we're not doing our job properly. You know, we take tremendous pride in making sure that we get everything the day it comes out and taking care of people the day it comes out. But some things are just beyond our control at the moment, so c'est la vie. But anyway, that is pretty much all the store stuff for the day. But I'll just move into a little bit of news stories that caught my eye this week and things of interest. One of the first things I saw was a very small indie title called 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank. Really, really excellent indie title, may I add, by Matthew Rosenberg and Tyler Boss. And this was essentially about 4 kids who are trying to rob a bank. So it's about child criminals, simply because one of the kids' dad is being brought back in by this gang to do one last job for them. And the kids are going to try and do it before the dad can get in trouble. It was a really good title from Black Mask Studios. It's an indie label that maybe not a lot of people know. They do some good stuff. There's a really good one as well. I'm pretty sure I've got in stock called Young Terrorists, which is really, really good. They always tend to do them as thicker single issues, sort of 64 pages, 80 pagers, that kind of thing. But I see that this is going to be turned into a movie. You've got the writer Matthew Robinson, who is co-adapting the script. So to give you an idea, he has written The Invention of Lying. He wrote Little Shop of Horrors, Live, Die, Repeat, which was Edge of Tomorrow, depending where in the world you live. Great Tom Cruise sort of mech movie. Really, really good. And he also did Dora and the Lost City of Gold. So yeah, looking forward to that. We've got a couple of the, I think it was local comic store a day edition graphic novels of that in store. So it's a really good one and done title. Really recommend that one, guys. So I'll look forward to seeing what they do with the movie. And then speaking of movie/comics, I saw that Berserker, which is the upcoming Keanu Reeves co-written title with Matt Kint, and I believe it's Ron Garney doing art. They moved it on the Kickstarter this week, which I found kind of interesting. I'm up and down on this when it comes to Kickstarter. For me, Kickstarter should be for young, up-and-coming, well, not even young, but up-and-coming creators. It should be for indie books for them to sell them to a new audience, to see if the audience is there so they can make the book and that kind of thing. But recently there's been, obviously, Scott Snyder went on to Kickstarter. You had Berserker, you had Todd McFarlane for a Spawn figure, that kind of thing. I understand using it to a degree to know how big your audience is, but at the same time, it's maybe taking people's pledges away from those smaller titles that they'll maybe, jump onto. But with Berserker, I believe it's just a graphic novel they're kickstarting. It is still coming out in its traditional single-issue format, starting in October. I wonder if maybe pre-orders for this weren't as big as they expected. Keanu Reeves is a very, very popular name, well-known name worldwide. Maybe they were expecting huge numbers. Now, I can only speak for our store, but at Coffee and Heroes, the pre-orders for this are through the roof. We're even actually qualifying for 1 to 25 variants and all sorts, which on an indie title is nuts. Most indie titles, Undiscovered Country's the anomaly. But outside of that, most indie titles are 15 and under, maximum for us. Because, when it comes to the big two, there's titles in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, etc. But when it comes to indie stuff, because there's such a wide variety of it, it's predominantly, low teens. So the pre-orders for this are big for us, so I can't speak for other comic stores, but I just wonder if they kickstarted to sort of protect themselves maybe against the slightly lower orders than they were expecting. So, yeah. Moving away from the indie stuff, we've got a little bit of DC stuff. So what we've got here is, first of all, DC has hired Daniel Cherry. He was one of the former chief officers of Activision. He has been brought on as their new general manager. So be really interesting to see what they do with him. He's been in charge of global businesses before. He worked for an NHL franchise, for example, and he begins work on September 8th, which is this week. And it's interesting that this is something that got put in place just before the next part of news want to talk about, which is DC Fandom. DC Fandom, of course, had a great success, as we've chatted about before, but there is going to be a second show, 24-hour event, which is on September 12th, so this day next week, so expect another bumper video from that. But it's called DC Fandom Explore the Multiverse, and it's going to focus primarily on television and comics. So what I'm really hoping is that they announce their strategy for moving forward. They announce their strategy in terms of distribution, because, as retailers, we're starting to dread the end of this year, because as hard as it is to deal with Diamond sometimes, no one else has stepped in to say, well, from January 1st, we'll be dealing with DC content, and their deal with Diamond UK runs out at the end of this year. So hopefully they'll announce something on that. They've obviously cancelled a lot of titles recently, so I'm wondering if there's going to be a citywide reboot of the entire line. So we'll keep an eye on that. So hopefully we'll get some answers at Fandom next week. Wait and see. And then speaking of, unfortunately bad news when it comes to the world of DC, the Batman movie has paused production as a key member of production has been diagnosed with coronavirus. There's a lot of people widely reporting that it's Robert Pattinson that has caught it, but that, as far as I'm aware, that hasn't been confirmed. It's just a case of a key member of production. So they've obviously put a stop to that. Hopefully it's a temporary stop. Of course, health and well-being comes first. End of story. So, whoever it is, we wish them all the best and wish them well. And then hopefully they can get back to doing this, because we are all really looking forward to that after that first trailer. A bit of anime news that caught my eye this week as a long-term Sega fan. So Crunchyroll and Adult Swim Productions have come together to co-produce Shenmue. Shenmue, for anybody who doesn't know about it, was at the time the most expensive game ever made. It was released on the Sega Dreamcast. It's a 4-disc epic, and you followed the adventures of Ryo. And he came home one day to see his father killed by a mysterious man, Landy, who also was after this sort of magic mirror. You never found out just why until way later. But it was essentially the first ever proper open world game. Like, it set the template for a lot of the best games that we enjoy these days. But it was way ahead of its time. But it was unfortunately released on the Dreamcast, which was starting to die out a little bit. Sony PlayStation had taken such a huge lead in the market. They did release Shenmue 2 as well, but then it never gave you the answers you were after. And then just last year, Shenmue 3 came out for PlayStation 4 after a very long and successful Kickstarter campaign. But these two companies, Crunchyroll and Adult Swim, have come together. They're going to produce a 13-episode original anime series based on it. So essentially, we may actually find out all the answers we want. This is awesome. They have showed off a little bit of production work. But hopefully this could be the start of like a new anime co-production with Sega. You know, they're doing Shenmue. What's to stop them doing like a Panzer Dragoon saga or Shinobi or, you know, any of these other great properties that they have that are just ripe for, you know, a television adaptation. And it'd be great to see. So it being Shenmue, I'll dig the hell out of that. You know, 13 episodes. It is going to stream worldwide outside of Japan, which is good to hear. So yeah, there's a couple of other interesting ones actually. I noticed there is a Blade Runner anime series in production as well called Black Lotus. Something else to look forward to. But yeah, that's Shenmue news. That just dropped today, so I was really excited to see that. Speaking of adaptations that are under work, we have Spider-Man spin-off character Silk is getting her own TV series. This was news broken by Variety. And it's Sony who's going to be developing this. Obviously, Sony have the rights to the Spider-Man universe. And this is going to be I think it is going to be an animated series. They haven't actually fully explained it just yet, but it is in development. They've also tried to bring in Phil Lord and Chris Miller to executive produce it. And these guys executive produce Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So, in a safe pair of hands there. Speaking of Marvel, Natalie Portman has arrived in Australia and she's relocating there because that's where they're going to be shooting Thor 4. Try saying Thor 4 10 times fast. Under the title Thor Love and Thunder. This is going to follow the Jane Foster ascension to the Thor name. So production getting on underway under that. What else we got? We've got The Mandalorian Season 2 set a date this week. Season 2 is going to be aiming for October 30th. I'll be curious to see if it's going to be a case of putting all the episodes straight on Disney Plus or if it's going to be one episode a week. You know, I'd spoken before about The Boys now being on Amazon. I've seen a little bit of uproar from people that they've only dropped 3 episodes and then it's going to be weekly. We really have become such an impatient race. It used to be weekly TV shows were the norm. Now it seems to be if something's not dropped all at once, it's a major disaster. So, yeah, Mandalorian Season 2, I'll really look forward to that. It may even get me to sign up to Disney Plus. No guarantees, though. So that's that. Down to the last couple of things. These are sort of more movie announcement type things, but they're just things that interested me anyway. I'm a big fan of collecting 4K Blu-rays. I'm very selective with what I pick, though. If it's older movies, I think sometimes you can maybe make them look a bit too sharp, and then they maybe lose some of their mystique almost. Evil Dead is always the example I cite because Evil Dead was made on such a shoestring budget that, you know, the graininess actually helps the movie. Whereas if you make that so, you know, well defined and sharp, you're just going to see how fake it looks. But one older movie that is getting a re-release on 4K is Total Recall. This is one of my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. I think this is when Arnie was at the peak of his powers. It was released, I believe, in 1990, so this is around Terminator 2 time. This is around The Running Man, Commando, Predator, all these great movies. So it's getting a release. Interestingly enough, it's getting a release definitely in the UK for its 30th anniversary. It'll come out on the 23rd of November, but no US date has actually been set, so we might be getting something first. Shock. And then just one last thing to finish on, which was they dropped a new trailer for the James Bond movie, which is No Time to Die. I haven't watched the trailer myself personally because, as you know, I like to sort of wait for movies now. One trailer is normally enough. I've been told lots of good things about this trailer. I'm a huge Bond fan. For anybody that knows me, Roger Moore's my personal favourite. I think it's all about who you grow up watching, to be honest. But Daniel Craig I've enjoyed to a degree. Casino Royale is a masterpiece. Quantum of Solace gets a lot of hate, but it's better than most people think. Skyfall for me was overrated, and Spectre I thought was pretty terrible, to be honest. But I'll give this a go. I believe it's his last one he's doing. So it's Cary Fukunaga, I believe, directing it. Yep, and apparently it's been ready for months. Like, they're not making any changes to it. But it's now going to come out on November 12th in the UK. And again, another example of the UK getting something first. It's out in America on November 20th. So there we go. So yeah, that's pretty much all the movie news. Just a movie, TV, game news. I'll just finish off on just a very quick 2-minute review of Christopher Nolan's Tenet, which Vicky and I got to see last weekend. Again, it was something I avoided all the trailers, all the TV spots, all the radio spots, articles, everything. I literally went in knowing absolutely nothing. We went to the Dundonald Omniplex to watch it. They have a max screen. Booked our tickets well in advance to make sure we were right in the middle, and settled in for 2.5 hours of Christopher Nolan, and it was awesome. And it's a weird movie in a way, though, to review, because to review it and give away plot details would be to ruin it slightly. I can't recommend enough going into movies these days, knowing as little as possible. So I thought that the action in it was pretty phenomenal. There was stuff in it that I don't think you've ever seen before. Nolan always likes to play with expectations, play with, you know, the confines of cinema, so to speak. The closest thing, it's a bit of a lazy comparison in a way, but the closest movie I'd put to it is Inception. It's something you got to pay attention to. Don't be sitting there on your mobile phone or checking your Facebook or any nonsense like that. Just surrender yourself to 2.5 hours of it. Enjoy the spectacle. Enjoy the fact that you genuinely are seeing something you've probably never seen before. I'm looking forward to a second viewing, though. A second viewing for me is going to be a case of trying to strip the movie back a little bit, break it down. Because I've even seen other reviews that have said, don't try to understand it the first time you see it, just enjoy it, feel it, you know, that sort of thing. And I understand where they're coming from now that I have seen it. So, highly, highly recommended. I'm hoping we'll get to go and see New Mutants in the next couple of days. So, again, I'll throw a wee review out for that. But no, go and see Tenet. It's great to be back in the cinema. It's great that they're adhering to all social distancing, you know, perspectives and so forth. You know, when you book in the Omniplex, they block off seats in front and to either side of you. And it's great to see a new movie. You know, we've been to the cinema 3 times since lockdown was, you know, lifted. And it's amazing that all 3 of them were Christopher Nolan movies: Dark Knight, Inception, Tenet. But it was great to see a new movie again. It reminds you that going to the movies is actually really special. So hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have got Bond, we'll have got Wonder Woman, we'll have got Black Widow. You know, these are all movies to really look forward to and that are worth the effort of going to the cinema. So go see Tenet. So yeah, that's going to do it for me for this week. So hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you're all staying safe out there. I'm sure there'll be plenty more videos coming next week, because with DC Fandom coming up, and also I've another wee What's in the Box coming as well. We've some more merchandise coming to the store, some new statues and so forth, so I'll be showing those off as well. So keep an eye for that, guys. Have a good weekend. Stay safe out there. Take it easy.